So welcome back to, unfortunately, the final episode of Life Sci AI, the podcast for series 1. Anyway, this is the 9th episode. So if you want to go back and listen to anything that has been in the episode, it's been in the series so far, please go back on Spotify, go back on Anchor, go back on Apple Podcasts and on our website and dip into your favorite episode. But for now, we are joined by the founder of Optellum, Dr. Vaclav. How are you doing? Nice to have you on. Timely as well with what's been on the news with Optellum, right?
Hi, Nick. It's great to see you.
No worries. Well, first off, whoever can't see, if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, Vaclav has an amazing background. At the moment, do you want to just describe to anyone what your background is behind you first?
My background is actually a chest computed tomography of myself, which was ordered by a pulmonologist, a lung doctor, because of asthma and just to exclude some potential severe things. And there's actually tonight we're going to be spend a lot of time talking about the earliest pre-symptomatic signs of lung cancer and some suspicious spots on the lung. And you can actually see in here, this little bit is what we're going to be talking about. It's a lung nodule, and I have like 2 or 3 of them. And these are the kind of suspicious things in lungs which may or may not be lung cancer. Most of them are harmless, and because I ran my own image through this AI software produced by our own company, I know that this is with extremely high confidence. This is a nothing, so I can
very safely say. Well, explain to everyone a little bit about Optellum and yourself if they are not familiar with you at this moment in time.
So. We are a small, rapidly growing startup company based in Oxford in UK of around 30 people. And we founded the company with the goal of enabling every lung cancer patient to be diagnosed and treated at the earliest possible stage when the chances of cure are the highest. Unfortunately, I got a personal experience in this area. My aunt, who has never smoked a single cigarette in her life, she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and she died within 6 months. And right now, lung cancer is the deadliest. It kills more people than any other cancer in the UK and globally. And unfortunately, it is the cancer death sentence. Only around 15% of patients diagnosed survive longer than 5 years. And the main reason for this abysmal statistics is that patients, unlike with many other diseases and many other cancers may start causing problems when they're still in the early stage, when they're still localized and can be treated by surgery. Lung cancer is so dangerous because it's typically the symptoms only appear when it's too late, when the disease has spread and metastasized through the body. And the good news is that we do know that if patients with small stage 1A tumors, I mean, so 1-2 centimeter large tumors, such as like this spot in my lung, if they are detected early and if they're treated in a minimally invasive way by thoracic surgeon or interventional pulmonologist, then the survival rate can be 90%, so going from 15 to 90%. And there's only one way these tiny tumors can be detected and diagnosed, and that's through a chest computed tomography. That's through exactly the same type of scan you see on my background, where the black areas are actually the lung, that shows the air, and the white areas, that's my ribs and my chest. And you may wonder, not everybody has severe asthma like myself. So not everybody just happens to have these scans. But actually, there is the biggest opportunity to intervene early in lung cancer is amongst the around 200,000 people in the UK every year and 2 million in the United States who have these little spots in the lung detected incidentally. That means in a scan acquired for other reasons. Actually, for me, that's with asthma, but the majority would be cardiac scans, heart scans, trauma scans after accidents. And in about 1 out of 3 of these scans, the doctors see these suspicious spots, but they cannot say. Is it a cancer or not? And currently, it takes them 1 to 2 years of follow-up investigations, of repeated scans, often 3-4 scans where they're scanning the patient and see how it grows. They often have to take multiple biopsies because these tiny lesions in a moving lung are so hard to target with a biopsy. Often take PET scans with a huge dose of radiation. And probably the most shocking stats for me is in the United States, nationwide, 30% of lung resection surgeries, that means when with a suspicious nodule, they'll take your lung out or half of your lung out, with tremendous risk and tremendous impact on quality of your life, your ability to breathe. So 1 out of 3 are done completely unnecessarily on a benign condition when there is a infection, inflammation, and 1/3 of these very drastic surgeries are completely unnecessary. And this whole process takes, patients jumping back and forth between procedures. It takes, over a year, and quite often patients are completely lost to follow up because the process is so complex and they just drop out. They just drop out. And unfortunately, if they do have cancer and then they only appear with symptoms, then it's too late to save them.
Gosh, that's staggering. And I had so many questions about how do you diagnose with lung cancer in the first instance, because I don't know when I would go and get a CT scan. I don't know when someone in my family would get a CT scan if they haven't got chest problems or lung problems anyway, even if it's for a health checkup. So in terms of how you've explained it there, it's really well presented, the problem, essentially. And I'm just in a bit of a flummox as to how your AI model breaks down that problem. I don't know how much detail you can go into it, or want to share and divulge your secrets, but there's so many questions about how can the AI close the gap that takes 1 or 2 years for a human being to do, and biopsies, and then 1 in 3 of the surgeries in the USA is benign anyway. So how do you go around that? Where do you start effectively?
Yep. So to solve the problem, we've developed an Optellum platform. We call it Virtual Lung Nodule Clinic, which is the first AI-based clinical decision support platform for early lung cancer diagnosis. It's the first time, just around a month ago, we're the first such company and product in the world to achieve clearance by the FDA.
Congratulations on that, though, by the way. We didn't mention that early on, but
yeah, that's quite significant. We are a world's first company, and our product, it really does 2 key things. It has 2 key parts. The first part is we are producing a dashboard, an automatically built list of all patients who have these suspicious nodules in the lungs, whether they appear in cardiology, whether they appear in emergency department, in scans after falls and accidents, or whether it's somebody with a different lung conditions like myself, or liver conditions, or anywhere where lung is visible. And we produce this dashboard by having the computer and using natural language processing to automatically analyze all radiology reports across the health system no matter in which department, these scans are ordered, and then we ensure that these patients are identified and enrolled into the system, and then the computer actually listens to all the new scans and procedures which are done, and and closes the gap, closes the loop. If, for example, this patient is meant to show up in 3 months or 12 months for another scan, and if the patient doesn't come, then in the dashboard we really raise alarm for the nurse navigator or administrator to help close the gap. And then when the patient, this way we ensure that everybody is systematically followed, and then to the doctors, the pulmonologist, that means the respiratory medicine specialist, and the radiologist, we provide them with through the same platform, we provide them with what we call lung cancer prediction. It's an AI-based digital biomarker, which helps them make optimal decision, which really helps to make them more accurate, more consistent, and it helps them make better decisions in terms for what to do next with the patient. Is it very highly likely to be a cancer, and I should really recommend a biopsy or even a surgery straight away, or is it a very likely to be a harmless infection or inflammation, and I should either discharge the patient or just order one scan in a year? And so this digital biomarker is based on a huge data set of around 100,000 scans, where we had the definite ground truths for these patients, like the result of the histological analysis of the lesion after it was resected by a surgeon, and we can predict the same outcome or result much earlier in the patient pathway.
Awesome. Okay, so there's one thing that you picked up when you're using NLP and you're getting a lot of patient data together. Was there a challenge with patient security of data of the patients and having access to that? Do you normalize the reports? How did that get put into the model?
Yeah, so obviously we are working with anonymized data. We're working with a number, probably a couple of dozen hospitals around the. So to develop and validate a system, we really had to gather data from dozens of hospitals around the world because of the hugely heterogeneous nature of the patient populations. And that's important, probably far more important than, say, other diseases like breast cancer. It's important because lungs are exposed to the environment. So the infections and inflammations you're seeing in different parts of the world are different. For example, in Midwest United States, they have a very special kind of infections which may appear to be like a cancer on the CT scan, which do not appear elsewhere in the world. So we had to build a huge database, and it was also necessary and requested by the FDA to really show the validation that is robust to dozens of different models of scanners from dozens of hospitals and just very different types of patients.
Okay. So is this something that was hard to put into the model? Was that a challenge, or was there a bigger challenge that you found in developing the AI?
I think the number one challenge was ultimately what's the most important to be successful is the independent clinical validation. Is to really have a robust system which is then validated by independent clinicians, somebody who is not conflicted, is not an employee of the company, and that's important to be trusted by the medical community. And we've been very lucky to work with some of the most influential and respected doctors around the world, such as Professor David Baldwin, who's the chair of the clinical expert committee for the National Health Service. So he's the lung cancer boss in the and this really helps us get the credibility that the AI is actually robust and it works. Obviously, before that, understanding the real customer needs, how to integrate it in the workflow that was important, and how to build the data sets. That was also very, very important, especially we are dealing with these incidentally found nodules, which may appear in cardiology, it may appear in liver scans, trauma scans, and so there's an incredible variety of data, and it's often very hard to actually in the retrospective records to find the true diagnosis. What is it that happened with the patient? Because the patients may move somewhere else and be followed somewhere else, or not be followed. They may die before the definite diagnosis is established, so we will never know. And
interesting. So the bit I always found a little bit interesting when developing these AI companies is you have an idea, right? You have an idea, a problem, incredibly smart people. Now you've got FDA clearance, you're a company of 30, you're still scaling, you're in America now as well. What are the challenges that you found in being a CEO of the company?
I mean, I think the main challenge is in in an early stage company, it's everybody wears many hats, and I think is working. I think our typical employee works 3 or 5 hats, which is great, because it's and our colleagues and our team, they can really assume much bigger responsibilities than you would get in a bigger company, and really be exposed to a much broader variety of challenges and be able to learn much more quickly than in large companies. For a CEO, the number of hats is even bigger. It's probably 7. And I think the key challenge, or was really important, is to find and hire people who are better than myself at the given things. Fire myself as soon as possible from as many areas as possible. And I've been very privileged to be working with people I've known for a long time, and I could trust, and I respect and admire them, and we've been very lucky to build a team with just a very high standards.
So did you always, I mean, obviously you had your horrible personal experience with your aunt and her passing away because of lung cancer. Did you always want to try and solve that problem? Because previously you were involved with other spin-offs of University of Oxford and such as well. So I guess the question really is why Optellum in the first place?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and I'll maybe answer in 2 ways. One is the link to lung cancer, and the other one is why did we find Optellum when we did?
Yeah.
To answer the first one, actually, my undergraduate thesis happened to be about lung cancer, using a image analysis and machine learning in lung cancer to improve a technique called PET, positron emission tomography. That's a type of very expensive scans used in hospital for staging of lung cancer. My PhD was around lung cancer, and I think I would say, rather than any sort of necessarily a profound search, let's just find lung cancer, but it was when you were presented with an array of options, like possible topics for your undergraduate thesis and your PhD thesis, and I think I naturally gravitated to the one which is an extremely deadly disease. So if you want to make a dent in oncology, frankly, when you look at diseases like breast cancer or prostate cancer, that's by now a chronic disease. Maybe 90% of patients can just live for very, very, very long time. And I think it's really the conditions like lung cancer, which is both very deadly and affects a lot of people, and increasingly affecting people like my aunt, actually never smokers. In places like China and India, it's half of the lung cancer patients today have never smoked a cigarette. And that's because of all the dirty, contaminated air that is not going away. That's why lung cancer. Now, why did we find Optellum when we did? I've always wanted to start a company, and during my studies at Oxford, I actually think in 2 different years we were 1 year the winner first, and the other one I think second in the student university business idea competitions with different business ideas. But and it's great to, out of 300 teams of students at a place like Oxford, to be the best. But then to turn it into reality, starting a company is very hard, and you always find something which is actually some problems is like intellectual property actually that's cannot be protected, or it's other patents and maybe because it's so hard, you always find a reason why not to do it. And so I postponing, and then I was working in in a very innovative medical robotics company in Switzerland, a sort of a SME company in 150 people, just the global leader, still very innovative, but already having a global scale, and very nice job. But then I always kept postponing. I was being offered to join other teams as a co-founder, and I was just declined. And ultimately, long story short, the reason when I realized when I cannot postpone it anymore was I went to a mountain expedition in Central Asia, where my normal climbing partner couldn't make it because he didn't get a holiday from his job. And so I joined a semi-random group from Russia, and led by some very experienced people, but who were not necessarily very safety conscious. And long story short, after telling the people a number of times that what we were doing it was extremely dangerous, and they just wouldn't listen. Vaclav, don't worry, I've been here for 15 years and we ended up free falling 25-meter deep in the crevasse in a glacier. And where the 4 people, everybody fell, and the leader was dead immediately, and other 2 people were badly injured, and I was the only one who luckily survived by miracle, just by luck. I falling on expedition backpack in the rest of the snow bridge, which broke on the glacier, and I was there at the bottom of the crevasse, and I was just saying, it's just not clear to me if and how I'm ever going to get out of here. But I said, if I do get out of here, I'm going to start a company, because life is too short. Life is too short to be postponing your dream, because I should have been dead, and the company would never happen. And so I got lucky again after surviving. There was also eventually some people who helped and able to rescue the injured people. And but then when I came back home, I reconnected with my former PhD supervisors at Oxford, and just said, look, Timur and Mike is starting a business today. We cannot postpone it. Some of the ideas which were sort of on the back burner, but not actively pursued, and one of them is really which grew into Optellum.
Wow, I was not expecting that answer.
So the decision to found Optellum, literally, and I'm not making this up, the decision to found Optellum was made 5,200 meters high in Central Asia, in the 25-meter deep in a glacier. So.
Wow. I guess then when you get back and you're struggling with IP and what can be protected, finding office space and all that kind of stuff, because you must have such a flame that's burning inside of you that must motivate you to keep pushing boundaries, to whatever challenge is put in front of you. I guess you have that just core motivation.
Yes, it's the motivation, and I think just losing fear. If you survive your own death by luck, there was no special skill. I think you just the other challenges look actually very solvable.
yeah, I guess like finding an AI model to cure early stage lung cancer diagnostics is quite simple when you're in that position. But when it comes to your position now at Optellum, how hands-on are you at the moment? You said you've got 7 hats on. My lights have just turned off. So but how hands-on are you at the moment with Optellum?
I mean, well, we're not hands-on, we're hands-off, not least because for about a year, we've actually managed the transition to COVID and remote working very well.
Oh, awesome.
Because we had a team with bonds very well together and has been working together for a long time and trust each other. And so we've been actually, we've handled the COVID work from home better than we could ever do. And I think I think they're delegating responsibility, and that's very easy with somebody who's already been on the team before COVID. I think we've now, I think we're quite lucky, hired some great people we have never met in real life, virtually. Some great colleagues in the United States, two of them. With these, we've been very lucky that it's working great. But I think maybe not always that will work very great.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting, the impact of COVID as we come out the other side of it. You say you've hired some great people in America that you've never met, and maybe the hiring was more stringent. I don't know what it was with you, because it was virtual. So you were double checking and triple checking to make sure you got the right guys out there in America. But one thing I'd be keen to know is, because at the start of the episode, you put out a lot of facts about, or stats about the need for early diagnosis for lung cancer, and the difference between someone who has it before 5 years of knowing about it, or someone in stage 4, and the survival rates. Do you have any stats or facts about the impact of Optellum within this, and how that has changed and adapted? I don't know if that's come through from your research as of yet.
Yeah. So the impact, I think I'm going to highlight especially the results of our clinical studies, especially the study underpinning the FDA clearance. And we've just secured a clearance a couple of weeks ago, and right now the first customers, they're just got authorization from their hospital IT to actually connect to our cloud and send us the images. So we will soon be talking about real patient success stories, but what I can share now is the results observed in clinical studies. And that was we've been able to show, or the clinicians we work with have been able to show, that the doctors who have access to the AI system, they become significantly better at differentiating between a cancerous nodule and a harmless benign nodule. All of them have improved regardless their level of experience, whether you're a junior consultant with 1 to 2 years experience, or a world-leading thoracic oncology expert with 20 years of experience. Everybody became better, and everybody became more consistent with each other. So that's important, because as a patient, you always want to receive the predictably high standard of care. You don't want to be at the mercy that if you're appear in emergency room on a Saturday evening when your scans are interpreted by some generalist, maybe some abdominal experts who does not understand lung. You don't want to be in a situation where you're at the mercy of whoever looks at your data. And finally, the doctors also made better, more optimal clinical decisions. For example, for 22% of the patients with cancer, they correctly recommended more aggressive actions, like actually push forward with the biopsy sooner than they would otherwise done. And 9 out of 10 of the doctors who participated in these clinical studies also reported that they were much more confident in their decision making with the help of the AI.
Oh, brilliant. So you've got some great clinical studies come through already, and excited to see, like you said, the first customers are getting authorization to use it on the IT system. So excited to see what comes back from there. But what I'm still really intrigued by is how does the AI classify between benign and non-benign?
Yeah, so as you see, so this is this little blob is a small nodule in my lung. I have 3, 2 others are elsewhere. And what the AI does, so one important thing, we are not reproducing a subjective opinion of a radiologist or a pulmonologist. We are basing the classification based on the ground truths, such as the result of a histological analysis. So when they resect such a lesion, put it under microscope and really see what it was. Was it cancer or not? And the computer will look, when you feed the neural network with 100,000 such scans, then it really looks at the patterns, the full patterns of pixels inside the lesion and outside, in the tissue and the vessels which lead to it, and it can really form the prediction based on a number of factors where we don't tell it what these factors are, but the neural network learns it from the data.
Wow, I'm still blown away by it, and I think I will be for some time.
Think about it. I think highly experienced, thoracic experts, thoracic radiologists, interventional pulmonologists, they can make a similar assessment just with their eyes, and you can think about it that what Optellum is doing is like, having your personal advisory board of 10 best radiologists and pulmonologists in the world for any doctors on the planet in any hospital, really advising you on how to make better decisions.
Awesome, that's fascinating. And could this go into developing countries and countries with weaker healthcare infrastructure long term, do you think?
Long term, definitely. You will actually see some of the developing countries modernizing very rapidly, and so adopting the new models of scanners and electronic patient record, and they often have shortages of physicians, so they have even stronger incentives, like not to be wasting the scans and biopsies on patients who don't need it. And so that's definitely the case especially in Asian countries, because that's where lung cancer is. Lung cancer is a huge problem in the UK, but in Asia there's a true pandemics because of the air pollution and the often unhealthy lifestyle.
It seems like you've got a lot of problems to keep solving on it, and it's just thankful that you say thank you if we had the motivation, because it's a horrible situation you were put in when you travel to Asia in that situation. But out of it has become Optellum, and I'm super excited to see where you guys go post FDA as the world's first and trailblazing through. And I know you've got some big plans for for the next 24 months, 36 months. So I think there'll be a lot of people excited to see the impact that you guys make, for sure.
Yeah, I think for us, it's we see Optellum as a lung health company, where early diagnosis of lung cancer is just the first step. But really, our goal with Optellum is to enable every patient with a deadly lung disease to be diagnosed and treated as early as possible and be cured. And so we're starting to look into a lung cancer treatment, helping doctors make optimal decisions for treatment of patients with early stage lung cancer, as well as expanding the same capability of coordinating care and predicting outcomes and diagnosis from imaging and other data into other deadly diseases of the lungs, such as interstitial lung disease, COPD, fibrosis.
Oh, wow. So you position yourselves as pretty much the lung care specialists within the marketplace. Amazing.
AI company.
Yeah, the lung AI company. Love it. Well, that was absolutely fascinating, and thank you very much for joining me. Your energy is infectious, to be honest, and I'm so excited to see where you go. Like I said, in the near future and long term as well, and the impact you make on people. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot for the interview. Bye.
No worries. And this ends, unfortunately, series 1 of Sci AI, the podcast series. So I want to thank everybody who's joined me all the way through, the guests, and everyone who's listened and watched. I guess we'll be back very soon for series 2, sometime soon, I imagine. But for now, enjoy the rest of enjoy the previous episodes on your favorite streaming service and on our website. And I'm sure we'll be back very, very soon. Thank you.